friends, and welcome to the Future of Gaming. You are listening to our weekly FOGcasts. We are back. I was on a holiday in Japan for a couple of weeks, which was amazing, by the way. Thank you for asking. And now I'm back in action, and so we can explore what new and exciting things are happening within the world of gaming. We have Devin, we have myself, and our special guest, John Burris. As you know, we are supposed to tell you what we're going to be talking about, but we never really know where we end up. So I'll just ask John to tell us a bit more about himself, what he's building, and then we can take it from there.
Great. I look forward to this winding discussion that hopefully will enlighten all of us. Real quick, my background. I'm really kind of a lifelong entrepreneur, right? I was early at Netscape back in the early 90s, so I'm a little bit of, I got a few gray hairs of the hairs that are left, and then was active around kind of the mobile space and actually ended up running a $5 billion P&L for a large U.S. telco. And part of that P&L had a games business that was a part of it, about a $250 million business, and then was very active around streaming of video and sports and media technology. We could talk about that. And then, of course, more recently, last 5+ years, been breathing, and sleeping, eating this, crypto Web3 space, and primarily in the metaverse gaming category. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm the president of a company called MetaJuice, and we are a company that is kind of crypto enabling InView, one of the largest social metaverses in the world. InView is a platform that has been around 18+ years. It's got millions of monthly active users, 700,000 plus daily active users, real active economy. We can dig into all that. And what we're doing is we're taking this Web2 business, this very Web2 community, it's very active, global, very large kind of creator-led economy, and we're taking that into the Web3 space. We could talk about how we're doing that with crypto assets, NFTs, tokens, right? And the whole challenge and opportunity, I think, in moving platforms, communities like that into this cool new space.
Very exciting. Devin, when we were prepping for this, you told me you have some experience with InView. What can you tell us about that?
Kind of a funny story here that's related. So I think I briefly mentioned once before when we were talking about virtual worlds, but I used to be in there.com in the beta, and ended up at some point in a focus group for what basically became IMVU. And I basically told them that I thought it was greedy and they shouldn't do it because they just wanted to sell clothes to a bunch of teenagers to display in their instant messenger. But, they went ahead with it, and sounds like it's working out for them. So probably don't listen to me, but thanks for paying me to be there.
Yeah, Devin would make a terrible VC. There you go.
Absolutely, but I'm enjoying any focus group.
It's actually got a great founding story with Eric Ries, the author of Lean Startup and kind of the whole play, and so kind of a real early path. So Devin, it's hard to tell, 18+ years ago.
I enjoyed there.com quite a bit though, and Second Life and all that stuff at that era. So it's good to see some of that still kind of like carrying forward as we kind of come full circle with a lot of these virtual worlds and stuff.
That's right. That's right.
I talk to a lot of founders, and this is something that I should say more often. But I think that the Lean Startup is one of the 10 most important books written about startups in the world. And it almost seems self-evident if you're in the space for long enough. But I do think if you haven't read it, you should probably read it. It's really good. And it also tells the story of IMVU, which is also fun. So I have one question. So this might be because I'm based in Europe, but I don't hear about IMVU at all. John, what can you tell us about that? Why is that?
That's real fair, and there's a lot of common feedback. It's a platform. It's a open metaverse, and with millions of users, hundreds of thousands of rooms and experiences, nightclubs, 13 languages supported. But I think for many of those 18 years, it's been kind of off the radar for sure, right? And just kind of grew organically. The company, the firm, didn't raise money for 10+ years, just kind of kept growing, funding itself, kind of, building out the experience on the platform. And then I think a lot of the users are very anonymous on the platform. So I'd say 60+% are more anonymous than they are sharing with their actual name or their actual persona, sharing that publicly. A lot of our users will create Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, and the like with the name of their avatar, because that avatar name, that their username on the platform really becomes an extension of who they are. but they're more anonymous. So it's one of those, and for some users, for some of the community members, it's one of those brands that you use, you'll plug in, use it for hours on a weekend night. It's your social engagement, but you may not talk about it. You guys know what I'm saying? Back at the office or around your other friends, depending on how you engage with the community. Right? And we can talk about why that might be, but it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about the demographics? Because maybe that also has something to do with me, just not fitting in there.
It's a great question. It's super interesting, I think, because just about 70% of our users are female, or at least identify as female. And the demographics range, from the core, from about 18 to 24 plus, up to about 35 plus. We don't market to below 18, but we do probably have 20% of our users are under 18. And usage on the platform, on average engagement is about 1 hour of time. Obviously less on mobile, more on desktop. And then we see spikes of usage, just to give you a feel of the demographics. Lots of spikes of usage in the evenings for various time zones around the world, and lots of spikes of time engagement on the platform over the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings, right? So it really is a social experience for a majority of our users. We also see spend spike when people are getting paid, or there's, or money's more freely available with folks. So it's a common platform for folks, to engage with, but they'll spend more when they have more. It's kind of that demographic as well. And then I throw out one thing, as we kind of like to think we're very much post-pandemic, but obviously you could probably imagine usage spiked a lot. There was a lot of user growth during those 2+ years, and frankly, a lot of users that came back to the platform, right, to engage, relight up their avatar and kind of engage back into the platform. And that's one more thing. At its core, there's a very, very loyal user base. There's a user base that has been here for years, right? They may be the creators, they might be the hosts that run the experiences on the platform, but there's a core to this base that just weathers any age almost, or any environment or financial, impacts of the world. So there's this good core that really kind of has always kept InView moving forward.
Mm. Fascinating. So the stimulus checks during COVID, you saw the results?
We do.
All into your pockets. There you go.
Well, yeah, and the pockets of our creators, we'd like to believe, right?
You guys should have definitely
into the community.
For sure.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's something interesting too. Every digital item on the platform, all the rooms and experiences, all the engagement, it's run by the community itself, right? We just create the platform, the marketplace, some of the rules of the road, try to keep everybody safe, and try to make sure that commerce that happens on the platform, everybody's no one's taking advantage of anybody. So we kind of create that environment, and then it's those creators and those hosts and earners that really drive the experience.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the commerce that you mentioned. I'm assuming goods, cosmetics, services, like experiences. What can you tell us about those?
You're right on. And just like Devin's kind of experience years ago, the core business is a virtual goods kind of experience. So a majority of the revenue that changes hands on the platform, value that changes hands on the platform, is around, I'll call them items out of the marketplace. And those can be obviously outfits and clothes. They can be looks of your avatar, different looks and feel, everything down to eyelashes, fingernails, rings. You think you wouldn't even be able to see those hardly in an avatar environment, but those things are important. Also animations. So creators will create ways that an avatar might move or hug or hold hands. And so there's a massive marketplace over, at this point, 60 million unique items. 5,000 plus every day are uploaded and reviewed and put into the marketplace. So that virtual goods environment, that is the core economy. And then what's new, and we could, it's really enabled by some of the crypto assets that we've introduced into the platform, is we're trying to really put the tools in place, the capabilities for a larger service economy. And, I use that general, goods and services idea. Our users, our community doesn't talk that way, but that's the peer-to-peer payments, right? Paying for access to a room, paying for me to show you around for 4 hours and take you to cool rooms or meet all my cool friends, or you paying me to help you dress your avatar, which could get tricky with 60 million items, right? Or, on and on and on, right? paying for advice on the platform, someone building out one of your rooms or experiences. And so you could, there's kind of, that's endless. And for years, our users would go, hey, pay me in PayPal and I'll let you in my room, right? Or pay me via WePay and I'll let you in my room. And now they can, of course, on the platform kind of do a right click and pay you with some Vcoin, right? So we're trying to just kind of enable that in the community and let those users. Are you guys
running a lot of branded stuff? I'm kind of curious because I remember there had the Levi deal and things like that. Like, are you guys able to bring in a lot of branded clothing and things like that and actually push that, or is it more custom made stuff?
I think there's no question that a majority of the content is custom made stuff. Some of it may look a little bit like some of the stuff that's popular in the market. So I always say, when the Met Gala happens in New York, 24, 48 hours, a lot of that stuff, like some cool dress that Rihanna just wore, it's likely to show up in the platform. Some creative creator gets in there. And then we are engaging more and more with brands, and so it's not to me, it's more of an additive play. And of course, in this, I'll call it in the Web3 space, we see a lot of cool things we can do all of a sudden now that we've introduced NFTs deeply integrated into our platform to protect those brands who want to know that they're, where their stuff's going or that they could get paid on resale and all kinds of things. So yeah, we could talk about that. We could even talk more recently, some of the cool brands we've done stuff with, but I think you'll see more and more of that out of us here going forward than you may have seen the last 5 years.
There's a ton I want to dive into. Could you maybe give us an idea about, you mentioned goods and services. Could you tell us a bit, maybe the percentages, what these represent today? Yeah,
I think, virtual goods are probably about 80% of all the revenue, of all the cash, of all the value that's changing hands on the platform. Mm-hmm. Services are probably 10%, right? Okay. There's a little bit of indirect kind of advertising, we call it, kind of, other revenue, if you will, on the platform. But, for the most part, it's you can almost, the way I think about it internally is, or with our community is, we've done a really good job. There's always more to do, but we've kind of killed it, if you will, with the virtual goods, right? For 18 plus years and uploading and just amazing things. And it's really hey, let's figure out this service economy. And then I would say what's new, what's kind of creates a huge new opportunity with the Web3 space is all of a sudden, a lot, through work, a lot of virtual goods, some of these services, they have the opportunity to go beyond our platform, right? So NFTs, it can be taken off platform, owned, traded, resold. Hey, could we interact with our friends over at Sandbox and do things? We've sold NFTs that were sold at a Decentraland event that now you can import into InView, and your avatar can wear those boots that you purchased. So we're working through, and I could talk a little bit how we're really active around kind of the open metaverse and open metaverse alliance, but kind of, what does this all mean? So my job really is to kind of, and MetaJuice's job with InView is to really kind of, make sure we have a next gen economy, a next gen kind of set of capabilities, all driven by Web3 technologies that can take this thing, to that proverbial next level, right?
Are you guys doing anything with Ready Player Me then in that sense?
Yeah, we do like that stuff. We do like those avatars and that kind of play. We know the leadership there. And so we are thinking through, and we're thinking through what kind of our platform, because you could imagine, 15 plus years ago, a lot of our tech stack was homegrown. So working through how do we kind of open this up through various partnerships or new tech kind of play so that we could make it easier for things to come in and out, right, of our platform. So we always say too to folks in our space that our door's open, right? We're not one of those gaming or metaverse companies that just talks about interoperability. We want to make it happen with the right players, because it does take tech work right now. It's not easy, right? There's not a set of standards that one can just plug into and transfer assets around various metaverses. But hopefully that's the long-term vision.
I'd love to dig into the Web3 part of what you're doing. But before that, I'd just love to understand, I'm amazed by the longevity of InView. What do you think makes it stand out as a platform? Because I'm sure that a lot of competitors have risen and have fallen along the wayside, but you're still here. What makes this unique?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, it's really serving that loyal core of the community, and making sure that while we've made changes or introduced mobile applications or tried to kind of continue to grow the platform, that we were doing our best to try to always serve that core user base and understanding kind of who they are, what they want, trying to always create a fair relationship with the creators and earners on the platform, right? And so I think it's that focus, almost focusing on that, on your true fans, if you will, right? That has allowed this thing to just to hang in there, right? To kind of hang through the storm, and then take advantage of when either we get the product right, or we get the experience right, or our creators do some special things, right? To just take advantage of that when it happens.
Awesome.
I mean, it's in the game space, as you know, it's common. Things are hits, and then they kind of die away, and it doesn't matter what you do, it won't grow anymore. I think in this platform, too, we did I've been here 5.5 years, so I give credit to others for this, certainly, but the early teams really did build a creator or community-led economy, which keeps this platform fresh, right? Which keeps the content fresh, which, as avatar looks that people want change over time, or what people would wear, or the kind of rooms or experiences they want to engage with. So that's something too. This thing is almost every day in micro ways, in small ways. The platform's always being refreshed, right? Versus a mobile app that maybe, you just add new levels to, and it's really the same game for 10 years,
One question I have before we dive into the Web3 stuff, and this is kind of related. When we talk about UGC and the creation of assets, which is something that we see more and more projects looking at, one concern I always have is just like asset inflation in a way. And what is too similar to something else to be a new product? And, how do you make sure that there's not going to be 100 different, very similar copies of Rihanna's dress, or, certain products that look like, I don't know what some of the brands are you work with. Let's say a Nike shoe or something, right? How do you make sure that someone that makes something that has an inverse swoosh is either allowed or not allowed, depending on how you're looking at it?
Yeah,
at scale.
Yeah. No, it's when you truly, and this is like any social open platform, right? When you truly allow creators or the community to really help build the experience, that's a risk, and so. There's no question with 60 plus million items in the marketplace, a lot of those, I was teased about the white t-shirt, right? I'm not saying there's thousands of white t-shirts, but there's lots of products that are more or less alike. So it's really important that the marketplace has, and we're always upgrading it, but has advanced features to make that search and discovery possible, right? Or it's really important that we are able to elevate and make it clear who the creator was, because creators have their own brands in this environment, right? And then I think, not to drag us too quickly into the Web3 space, but the introduction of NFTs on our platform and true rarity or exclusivity or collections, and the way that we're trying to communicate that in the community and make those elevated in a sense, and an extra set of review, that's all important to try to help kind of call out or make it clear what is and what isn't part of the platform. And then I would say from a brand perspective, anytime we obviously work with brands, and we're a very highly compliant, I could talk about it, kind of entity platform, and so anytime a brand wants us to clean something up, we can work through the platform and look for various ways that creators might be using the Prada brand or logo or spelling things differently, and do our best, right?
Good. Awesome. So tell us about your shifts, or like, when you got to learn about blockchain technology, and when you start realizing, this might be interesting for what we're doing. Yeah.
It was really in 2017 as I was contemplating, and it was, the current CEO was, right at the time, was encouraging me to join the team, and what we both saw was that the existing behaviors, the existing usage patterns of the InView community was really an ideal fit for the Web3 space, and I'll say for crypto assets. I mean, that's what made it such an obvious, hey, somebody should do this, and it should probably be us, because our users all had for 15 years or 10 plus years had been using cash, fiat, to purchase a virtual currency called InView credits. They're very comfortable doing that, right? Buying this virtual currency, like a lot of gaming platforms. Our users were very comfortable buying virtual goods, virtual items, right? They were very comfortable spending with each other across the platform, right? And so as we looked at it, and the millions, like I'll just say, on average this year, our users purchase about 20 million digital items every month out of the marketplace. As those hopefully over time all become NFTs, even 10% of that is larger than the NFT transactions per month on OpenSea. just 10%, right? So you start to look at this like, this is not a platform. And I've seen these in Web3 or, where we have to start from scratch, or we have to, where we're a messaging app and we have to create an economy where one never existed. It's really like, gosh, if we could just do this the right way. And I'll use this word, in a seamless way. So for our users, it just feels like they're using crypto and they hardly know it. They just get all the benefits. If we can do this the right way, we should have loads of usage. And honestly be, at least in this early stages in my mind, one of the largest crypto economies, certainly metaverse economies in the world, So that's really, we can talk about this later, that's really an advantage of Web2 companies, because there's bigger ones than us moving into this space the right way. You could really be big in this space.
It's, you don't have to face the gold star problem. Like, you already went through the gold star problem, and now you have the creators and you have the consumers, and now it's just implementing this new tech that essentially 10x might be too much, but improves the experience for the end user.
Right. It really does. It really is. And doing it the right way, communicating carefully. And I'll share some interesting things too. We talk to our community all the time, right? And they're great at answering polls or giving us feedback. So we, even year and a half, 2 years ago, started talking about NFTs, right? Not a lot of love for them back in the day. And, yet we shared the benefits of them. Hey, for the first time, you can actually own these items, resell these items, gift them to others, right? They're like, oh, we like all that. We just don't like it. Now, if we look at NFTs, I'd say there's probably about 70% acceptance. It'll be more too, as our creators get lit up on creating NFTs in a very easy way. So it's also, you have to be patient too. Like we always talked about as we made this migration, this transformation, we're not going to like blow up the business, right? We're not going to blow up the community by forcing, crypto in a shock. We're going to try to do it the right way and in a somewhat patient way, right? To make sure everybody can be on board.
What can you tell us about the different assets, and because you have NFTs and you mentioned some coins, can you tell us a bit more about just the crypto economy as a whole?
Yeah. And I'll kind of share it in the order that it's kind of come to the metaverse too for us, right? The first step was the introduction of a token, an asset, an ERC20 called Vcoin, and Vcoin is really like digital cash. Right, in our world we call it a stable coin, right? And so for our users, the introduction of Vcoin, and with it came a full introduction of an integrated custodied wallet, right? And kind of full transaction transparency and the ability to move assets around. And so we introduced Vcoin, and it was a way to on-ramp everybody. And our users I'll say this, they're real creators and real earners. So their first desire in this space was to have an asset that had fixed value that they could hold, pay each other with, and cash out into fiat, and then pay their rent, buy a new computer, right? So, the introduction of Vcoin, I could talk more about how that works and operates, but it's really kind of a fixed price. Again, using words the SEC likes, but a stable coin in our world token for the metaverse, and it can be taken off platform, right? 99% of the usage is on platform as users pay each other and do things and cash out into fiat. The next phase 2 of the project of the transformation is really the introduction of NFTs, which happened last year. But before that, we were selling some NFTs off platform and doing some cool things, but it was all very custom and bespoke kind of plays. But late last year in Q4, we had fully integrated NFTs into our platform. So we, with some of our creators, started to launch every week, every Tuesday. They would introduce a set, 500 to 2,000 new NFTs, always selling out. And we popped up to the top 10 in DApp radar of collectibles. And that was it's less than 1/10 of 1% of the virtual goods that are sold every month right now is what we've already done. I'll just say briefly, phase 3 of our NFT project is putting the ability for a creator to mint NFTs in what we call our studio tool. So when they upload a product, they can go click, 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 and turn that product into an NFT, right? 1 of them, 10 of them, 1,000 of them, and put that into the marketplace. So once that gets activated, then we turn on our massive community. So we see this NFT growth just going nuts here, and actually in a few weeks. And then phase 3 is what is happening right now, which is the introduction of really, I think, kind of the final asset that kind of rounds out the new economy, which is called VCore. So sometimes we use the word or around it. VCore, a little bit like digital gold for the metaverse. It's also an ERC20. It will be exchange listed. It's an asset it's a fixed mint, unlike Vcoin, so its price will be, dynamic. And it'll be an asset. It's not an asset that's going to be available to the U.S. users on our platform or the Canadian users for regulatory reasons. But it'll be a new kind of next level kind of asset for our international, from a U.S. perspective, our international community, right? A new way to earn, to be paid. And our creators, our community, they'll have the decision. Do they want to hold VCore? Do they want to step back into something like Vcoin? We'll be able to, because we're not backing it with cash, we'll be able to be generous in rewards and really making sure the core of the community is really engaged around this new asset. And so we're really excited about VCore, which in a lot of ways is kind of, the final, piece, asset, kind of crypto asset to the platform, right? From digital cash, NFTs, which really enables ownership, and then VCore is really kind of the full picture for us at this point.
So would it be fair to characterize it as the following? I think one of the strengths that Web3 brings to gaming is that it can give players a tiny share of the platform itself that they enjoy and spend time in, which essentially gives them a bit of a skin in the game. Is that a bit of the purpose of VCore? Do I understand that well?
Yeah, we talk a lot about it allows our users who are earning VCore to participate in the future of the metaverse, right? And we haven't linked it directly into, obviously, ownership of the platform or, directly into the monetization of other activity on the platform. And again, primarily for regulatory reasons. But there is that idea of participating in the future of the metaverse. And I think whether that's, to your point, there's this ability to earn in a new way. I probably can't go into a lot more detail. And there's an ability for our user to have a voice, a more based on their holdings in the future of the metaverse. And to your point or your question, beyond just straight cash and fiat, there's something more to this, right? This VCore, as you guys know, and an asset that is volatile in nature, does represent kind of the future of the metaverse for us, right? Not if that seems too cagey, but
I respect it. Great. One quick question, because I'd like to dive into the regulatory stuff from your perspective. So I look at you as a strong existing Web2 player in the space, moving in, knowing that they can bring massive transactions. In terms of blockchain infrastructure to build on, because you're going to need a high TPS, high transactions per second. Just maybe briefly walk us through your thinking there.
Yeah, no, we do. And the current architecture at a high level, is pulled together through some great technology, but also some really, I think, smart partnerships. So the first partnership was we have a deep relationship with Uphold as kind of our back-end foundation. I think you guys are aware of Uphold. Uphold, is like a crypto bank / exchange, but they have a really great kind of platform service. They run the back end for the Brave browser, right, and the BAT token. I don't know if you're aware of that. And so, which was handling millions of users and millions and millions of transactions. So it gave us a lot of confidence that they could handle our user numbers, our transaction numbers. And so we've plugged Uphold in. And so as users on our platform are looking at their, clicking on Vcoin or VCore and seeing their wallet and the assets in there, or they're sending money to their friend on the platform, that's all kind of handled by the Uphold platform, right? So you could say off-chain, side-chain, because of the high transaction volumes and the need to have low cost and fast transactions. So we're quickly moving, in a sense, ERC20 tokens around our platform, a million times a month, and that's sure by them. Then on the NFT side, our kind of early partnership is with a mutable. So with the IMX token and their platform, that layer 2 play. And so the early NFT minting on our platform and all that activity, and if one was to look over at a place like DApp Radar, we're one of the leading projects on top of Immutable right now. And then of course we're looking around. We've tried to plug all these things in a way that allows us to be flexible, because this space is so dynamic, right? From layer 1s to layer 2s to, what's hot, what's not. And so our current partnerships have worked great, and we're in really good shape, but we always keep our head up too, to kind of understand what could be or should be next.
Like, from my time spent in this space talking to founders building, this is one takeaway that I think a lot of people probably overlook. It is that we are still so early, and there is really not a playbook about how to do Web3 right at scale. And how to do Web3 right for games, even not at scale, is not really discovered. And so I would say that making sure that you're always flexible is probably key, because things will change. And the next bull run, we're going to be talking about a bunch of other things, and we're going to be excited about a bunch of other things. And, those might also not work out. And so I guess, make sure that you remain as flexible as you can, and you don't, sell tokens too early, because we've said this before in this podcast. If you're trying to raise and you sold tokens and your fully diluted market cap is $2 million right now, and you don't have an easy time.
Yeah, no, I think just to elevate that point for any, would-be or active entrepreneurs in this space, it is early. It's super early, right? We're working through a lot of the early mess that comes in an early space like this. And we've, done it before, right? With internet and other kind of plays, but even those kind of standardized fairly quickly. This one's funky, whether it's from regulatory perspective, underlying technology perspectives, whether it's kind of what is the right recipe, right? From, fully decentralized to somewhere on the spectrum. So it's an awesome space, but there's not an easy playbook. There's not easy patterns. I think it makes it tough for venture and others too, as well as entrepreneurs, right? Because there's not folks that like to look for patterns. There are obviously some, but it's funky and dynamic, and you got to be up for that. You've got to be up for that.
It is the Wild West. John, you mentioned regulation. Talk to us about your learnings around that.
Yeah, I'd first say, as a entrepreneur who's built several businesses in different categories, this space is one of the most, obviously, the legal regulatory domain is more important in this space than any other industry I've ever worked. I've never worked in healthcare, I suppose, or I don't know what would be more, but it is all just on that theme of being dynamic. It's super dynamic, and especially for us, because we have a global economy with users that transact with each other regardless of where they live. And so that was important. I'd say too, a good, us being a solid Web 2 business, we couldn't just, throw caution to the wind. We've always, as I mentioned, said, look, we're going to make this transformation, but not blow up the business. We also would say we're not going to risk the business or the community. So we took from day one, and it's added extra time and expense, but a very compliant approach to what we've done, right? So we've tried our best to always, and I'd say we've done a great job kind of really understanding what the rules of the road are, and trying to do everything we do in a very compliant way, which we could obviously dive into. In fact, I can pull out one point. We actually related to Vcoin, that kind of stable asset on our platform that's like cash. We actually worked with the SEC, and in 2020 earned what is only the third crypto-centric no action letter from the SEC, and really the last no action letter from the SEC. And it really expanded what one could do with a crypto asset, with a token, in this case an ERC20, because it was the first no action letter, and there's two prior, but it was the first no action letter that actually allowed, outlined the blueprint, if you will, that allowed an ERC20 or any token to leave a platform, right? To actually leave the walled garden or leave the environment. And so as long as we follow the blueprint, and anybody can follow the blueprint of that no action letter, asset like Vcoin should be deemed by the SEC to not be a security, right? So that's like next level compliance, right? Let's not just launch something. Let's actually work with the SEC, and in this case, earn this no action letter that's available online for anybody to look at, and have an asset that probably is about as compliant as one could be at this point.
How, just to give people an idea, could you Could you give us a sense of how difficult it was to get that no action letter?
It was a year of time. It was working with a great team over at Perkins Coie. It wasn't painful, it was a great team of folks that we've worked with at the SEC. It just took time. Because, I'm not going to speak for the SEC, but it appears like that a no action letter, when they publish that, it's a big deal, right? It sets a new, not just for us, but it sets a new kind of, boundary, a new set of rules, and outlines kind of what is allowed and what is not, or at least what is allowed, I'll say in this case. And so it's a big deal for them as they work through all their, steps to make something like that. So it was really a commitment. Honestly, Vcoin could have been an exchange listed token, 3 years ago, but we were working through the process. We were actually going to announce it at San Francisco Blockchain Week, and our interaction with our legal firm, the SEC, and them said, "Hey, you guys have something here that could earn a no action letter," and that made us pause and go, "Hey, I guess And our board, which is more of a Web 2 board, was like, "Hey, let's take this path and go the highly compliant way." So
how are you guys making that basically a stable coin? Like, is it backed by the dollar? Like, what's the functionality that makes that no action work? And you said it kind of a blueprint for others, right? What is that blueprint?
Yeah. At a high level, I'll just check off a few of the pieces of that no action letter. One is that we are obligated to sell it at a fixed price, at a price, I'll say at $1. It's not technically $1, but sell it at $1 and buy it back for $1. We're able to take, and as are our users, transaction fees, either peer-to-peer transaction fees or a transaction fee when a user turns Vcoin back into fiat. But for the most part, it's you buy it for $1 in a sense, and you can sell it for $1 back to us. We back it. We just manage our cash well, and we back that asset. And any user that is holding Vcoin, whether they're on our platform or off our platform, can bring that to the platform or to Uphold and turn that back into fiat. Right? The SEC no action letter did not outline any kind of, say the banking rules behind this. Right? And then we had rules ourselves that even though it's an ERC-20, we couldn't, and we haven't, engage ourselves with exchanges or, decentralized exchanges or any of those kind of plays, right? And so because of that, one can create models where the price could go up or down, but rationally, in a rational market, it really should stay pretty stable. And I'd say it has. It has stayed stable for 2+ years and really kind of served its purpose.
I guess if the U.S. market does go after stable coins in general, right, then is there like some risk there that they lump you guys in, whether it be considered one that's like backed by a bank of money or just in general, like has that functionality essentially?
Yeah, I think it's possible because I know, everybody, governments around the world have the right to change their mind about things or approaches or other rules. Of course, and we follow all the, money transmission rules, money service business rules. So I could, get into that as well. So it's possible things change. We're just a much smaller economy, even though I think we're big for the Web3 metaverse. We're a much smaller stable coin environment than any of the big dogs, than the USDTs of the world, USDCs of the world. Right. So that's definitely where they're focused first. But we will, if something changes related to our model or our approach, we'll definitely do our best to comply, or I'll say we will comply.
Do you think you'd be able to get that no action letter today?
I would just, if I look at the number of no action letters since ours, I would say no.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say no. And it seems like, there's lots of, from what I gather, right, this is just us having a conversation, what it appears like if one plugs into this wider, Web3 community. Folks have been talking to the SEC and others a lot, regulators, but I haven't seen a no action letter since late 2020. Mm-hmm. So I think one would say probably not.
Yeah.
Why even create your own coin instead of just using an existing stable coin? Like, what's the benefit to you guys? What's the reason behind it? Was it just like, hey, we already had a coin, we just want to move it on chain? Like, what's the reason?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it's a great question. Used to get it a lot. For our users, the easiest step, and for us too, was just having a token that was on our platform that we didn't have to go buy ourselves, or they didn't have to go buy themselves. And so we had much more control over the economy and seamlessly how it was integrated into the platform. we're not at risk of something, USDT being banned by the U.S. and then all of a sudden we can't. So it was that kind of play. We obviously looked at, but then said, hey, look, our model here, we're not trying to be the stable coin for the world. In fact, we would like Vcoin can easily be transferred into other assets too, right? So if there was ever a standardized, stable coin of the metaverse, we'd be open to adopting that. Does that kind of make sense? If it was easy for users to move around, they'd probably ask for it. And I think long term, as this stuff evolves, gamers, people in the metaverse, just people in these virtual environments are probably going to want to have stuff that either easily interoperates, tokens can move super easily between each other without massive transaction fees, or there are more, just a handful of assets that one would have to use, right? Versus one for every game, right? At least in the stablecoin category, right?
We're coming up on time. I wanted to have, John, maybe a couple of your biggest learnings in, bringing Web3 to an existing platform.
Yeah, no, I think it's a couple of things, right? It's first, just given how early we are in the space and the understanding of even our communities, our users around Web3 assets and the benefits of it. It's harder work than just, walking into, when our Web3 community's together or you're at a conference, feels like we all speak the same language and we're all on the same page. That's not true for the mass market, right? So it's going to take patience. It'll take patience with a Web2 team and company that's making a migration to Web3, because some of these models are funky or scary, or you're changing business models, or you're risking parts of the business model, right? All of a sudden our users can resell items. Are they still going to buy new items? Right, where we were, where the revenue share is a little better, and so that can be tough too, right? And then we've mentioned the regulatory environment. It's prior to the introduction of Web3 on our platform, the legal regulatory risk of the company was pretty low. We do a lot to keep users safe on the platform and do all those smart things globally. So we've done a real good. Well, all of a sudden your profile is a little different, right? When you step into Web3, and there's a lot of scary, noise in the space too. So I think in some ways, I'll say there's a massive, as we mentioned earlier, there's a massive opportunity when you take a existing solid Web2 business and move it into Web3, because my gosh, you're probably going to show up with millions of users, millions of transactions. You're going to wow the space, right? With just engagement. But the counter is you also have to kind of change all those things that I mentioned, right? You have to have the patience to work through that with the users and the community, the company and team members, as well as those around you. So it's a give and take, if you will, or there's pluses and, tough things to work through. So, but it's all worth it.
So what I take away from what you just said is that it seems like you can't half-ass this, right? This is like everyone needs to be on board at the top level. Everyone needs to believe in this. And it feels like, it feels like you guys are more unique, quite unique in this. And to me, at least from what I see, I don't think this sentiment happens at a lot of, executive levels of a lot of these companies. And so, yeah, given that it's still so hard and so uncertain, it feels like we've seen a lot of half-ass attempts, and
100%.
Probably going to see some more half-ass attempts before.
That's a great way to put it. If you're you can work your way in a little bit, but if the things you launch or the things you do are half-assed, you don't have to launch your entire strategy in one swoop. But if you half-ass, you're not going to get there. You won't get there. And you guys know this community too, and our community, even the InView community, not just Web3 communities. But if it smells wrong, if it looks wrong, if it looks like it's a money grab, if it looks like you're just doing it to do it, then if you're not doing your best to eat, breathe, and sleep the space, they're going to know. And so you got to do it the right way.
That's a great way to end this. John, where can people learn more about you, and where can people find out more about what you're doing with InView and the Web3 strategy?
Oh my gosh, anymore, we're on every platform, right? No, MetaJuice.com is not a bad place to start. And then obviously you can find MetaJuice or InView on LinkedIn and Twitter. Very easy to search for those. So we've made it a nice web of education, if you will. So actually, folks can just look for IMVU as well and find their way to us.
Can we chat with you on the platform though? That's what we want to know.
Oh,
so we can show off our latest clothes we bought.
I am Mountain Boy is my username on the platform.
Excellent.
So I expose that to everybody here. But yeah.
Mountain Boy. All right, Devin, what's your gamer tag? I never asked you this, but I want to know.
Yeah, I just go off MZO all the time when I can.
MZO, of course.
So yeah, I had it for like 25 plus years at this point. Like gotta lay my claim, man.
Yeah,
I don't have that persona with Mountain Boy. Just to be fair to everybody,
it's a little more general.
It's only on InView. Yeah.
Good. All right,
Very
John.
Cool. Well, we'll see you guys in the metaverse. Sounds like
100%. Thank you for joining, man. It was an absolute pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Good. Devin, thank you as well. But you, listener, thank you most of all for listening. If you enjoyed, let us know. Join our Discord if you haven't already to have conversations like this. And with that, we are out and we look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. Ciao.